preparing to live stream. It takes a while, right? Depending on the server, depending on my connections, depending on my Wi-Fi, depending on my amount of RAM I have, depending on my CPU, other things. Okay. So I hear myself, so I know that it's streaming. Okay. So Isa, you'll take care of your group. Everybody's here, all the camera work and everything. So we're up and running. So Roxy, let's welcome everybody. Today is April 8th. And as I mentioned before, we have on April, basically exactly 2 weeks from today. 2 weeks today, we meet in person for our second exam. Next week, I will be handing out a review for the exam. And on the 27th, we'll be doing our final presentations. So time is running, and hopefully we can give each other enough feedback. So Roxy, first comment, let me know.
Okay, well, it was kind of just me being confused on the directions for the next audit assignment because basically for like the VAPI part it says only one member of the group. So I was wondering for the notebook LM part if that was like another thing we each just do separately or if we all do it, it's just one person does it.
Okay, perfect. So why don't I do this? That's a great interlude to let's review what's due. Let's look again at what we need to do for our project, and then I'll make additional comments. So I'm going to share my screen. And I'm going to share my browser. And Roxy, be so kind, and Eats and everyone else. Sometimes I share and sometimes I don't click, and I'm speaking and I'm expecting you to see what I'm seeing. So that's why I always ask for feedback, since my view versus your view is different. So Roxy, what are you seeing now?
The YouTube live stream.
Okay, YouTube live stream, and you see yourself as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
You see me, you see you, and then your lovely colleagues here. Okay, so now we're going to go to business technology. We'll go to the what's due section. Under the what's due section, we saw last week the assignment was to do a phone voice AI agent assignment, and we're using the platform, right? The AI agent platform called VAPI. And VAPI stands for Voice Application Program Interface Platform. So we know we had to do this. And then we had in the audit assignments, I need to go to audit assignments and look at the part 3. And I just want to make sure how you divide this up. You and myself are not going to micromanage, but it's important that everybody in your group takes an active participation. And what needs to be done up to now, you know that you should have published your website, you should have had your mission, your team. And in this case, I want to make sure you know that you need to create service offerings, when you need to upgrade domain names. If you have trouble with upgrading domain names, please contact Isa, and Isa will see if we can resolve your issue. If we're not able to resolve your issue, we can at least reach out to Wix. They should help us resolve this. You need to have a notebook podcast, and you need to also attach VAPI to your website. So somebody can click and talk to the voice agent, and also have your phone number, a VAPI number that's provisioned. It's not your phone number, right, Roxy? But you don't want people calling you, but rather you want them to call the voice agent with its own phone number. What Roxy and I were discussing is you should have, you can, however you want to do it, but you'll only have one VAPI AI agent. You can decide you want one person in your group to do it, Roxy, or you may say, hey, we'll have a team do it, 2 people maybe doing it to help each other. That's up to you. In the podcast, you don't need to have 4 different podcasts, but you could have minimum, you need to have at least one podcast. And the way that you assign it, you can assign one person to do it, or you can say, hey, we'll have 2 people do it. One will be the lead, one will be the associate. One will be the lead and the phone agent, and one will be that. You need to get a phone number that works, right? So you can create either another phone number or use somebody, Roxy, use somebody's that did the assignment for the AI agent phone number, use their phone number that actually works. Does that make sense, Roxy?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Yeah, so those are the areas which you can do. The same thing with tutorials with videos. In this, I to do one tutorial per person. You may also, if you want to be creative, have 2 people create a video too. One person has to do at least one video. Roxy, if you want to say, hey, let's do one together on how to do voice agents for your company, you could do another one for voice agents with the company, and you could even have 2 people do the video. Just like now, Roxy, me and you are talking together, you can almost have a conversation. Sometimes it's just easier for one person to do it, but in this case, at least each person should do it. These videos will reflect your work, Roxy. So you'll have an individual, at least one video that will reflect your work. So you want it to be outstanding. You don't want it like at the last minute, just, slap something together. You know how a video, when you start doing it, you start hemming and hawing. I'm not sure where I'm going, the first time around. You may want to do a first draft and then do it the second time or the third time, and then post your best video there. You also want to be able to showcase what is your video about and who is presenting. We talked about that. YouTube account, you'll create then a YouTube account. You can already post all your videos that you've done for your group. You can post it right there. Plus you can post other ones, and then you can even post some on YouTube versus some from your Instagram or TikTok or others. And then you need to select that custom domain name and upgrade using the Wix code provided. And then once you do that, once you have a domain name, Vivian, number 4, the way you can do number 4 is you need to have then your domain name, which really helps on that. And then service offerings. And here's that notebook LM, how to do that, specifics on it. And here's the VAPI number where I said only one member in the group, in the way that they're using. You can just even use their phone number or pick another number on how to do it. And at the end of VAPI, you need to be in the business plan. At the end of VAPI, you need to then, under the widget area, there's a place right there. They give you the HTML code that you can do that. Is that clear to everyone? Roxy, did I make that clear?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, perfect. And thank you for reminding me. Anything else? Okay. So let's proceed here and let's go through again. Let me share, make sure everybody understands what's going on here. Let me share my screen. And let me go back to the area. So we know that the final project, you want to ready have all these steps for that I can review on Monday. What'll be nice then, Vivian, is to have already public, make sure, your website should be already published on your groups. So in this case, I can pick on a group and we can see it. What I suggest is those groups that want to be reviewed next Monday, let myself and Isa know, so then I can give you feedback, right, Vivian? The best idea is to get the most feedback consistently so we can improve. Okay, so those were the ways in which we talk about it, and just feedback, Isa, even from my other classes, they really appreciated your tutorial on VAPI. They said that that when I was asking how was the assignment, they said we really liked Isa's explanation. So I just wanted to give you that feedback. All right. So that's great on that. Okay, perfect. So in this case here, it's always good to get feedback on how we can improve. And you know what would be, I think, good is he says, talk to Lily. I think it'd be good to have another two tutorials, one a tutorial on how to embed the podcast audio on the website, and another tutorial on how to embed this phone agent into Wix as well, rather than just instructions. So talk to Lily on how you guys want to divide up the work, but I think that'd be great. Don't you think so, Lily? In terms of giving people, a lot of times when you read instructions, if I could see you doing it, it kind of, I think, reinforces it. What do you think in this case, Catherine?
That's a good idea because sometimes it's confusing to just read
Sometimes it's confusing.
instructions.
Yeah, sometimes it's confusing to where are they? If you could just show me, and a lot of times I think we can add to the instructions some screenshots sometimes, right there underneath those. So Isa, talk to Lily and maybe the group of TAs to see how we can improve that. Okay, perfect. So that's what we want to do. So we got that part. We got on the what's due then. So I was talking about last time, I like the idea this was my favorite article on the future of conversational AI that I think is important for you to read. And the other one, and you needed to talk about ERP, enterprise resource planning. What does that mean? Who cares about that? And then for Monday is the last chapter for the test is chapter 12. So you can think when people were talking about what's going to be on the next exam, after the exam, we went over Tech Guide 3 Cloud Computing. So TG3 Cloud Computing will be on the exam. We talked about the idea of artificial intelligence. That's going to be on the exam. And that is such a large area, right? Artificial intelligence, not only could it be just an entire semester, but it could be an entire major, right? And some of you are even thinking or are doing AI minors. There's even going to be next semester an AI major, right? And every week there's really so many differences that come about. So this is hard to keep up. But what I want you mainly to understand in artificial intelligence is that you understand the foundations. When we talk about artificial intelligence, when we talk about machine learning, when we talk about data mining, when we talk about generative AI, versus AI agents, what's the difference? So in this case, let me just see here. This, let's go from the current slide. So in this case, what we need to be able to think about is how artificial intelligence can help us, and also what are the potential limitations. The limitations are getting basically differential in the way that AI is improving so quickly that some potential limitations won't even exist 6 months from now. And then there'll be other limitations that will exist, that sometimes it gets to be so good that all of a sudden you say, hey, it can basically do some harm in terms of fraud. You know, somebody can imitate someone, take their voice as well. And then how do you develop systems? The way you develop systems is you can look at these issues. One is what they call supervised. Ways to develop system. And supervised means what, do you think, Vivian? Supervised meaning the AI model works, and who supervises it? Another human, right, Vivian?
Yeah.
It would be another human that would supervise. Another way would be semi-supervised, Catherine, and semi-supervised would be that I take away a little bit of the human and have the system train itself. And unsupervised, what do you think it would mean, Catherine?
No human.
No human, right? The AI itself would do it. And reinforcement, when it makes mistakes, what do you do in reinforcement learning? When you do a good job, Catherine, what do you want? You want feedback that was right. Do you also want feedback as a human, Catherine, that you made a mistake?
Well, yeah.
Yeah. So that's what reinforcement is. They're trying to take these models, trying to emulate them to be like human thinking. So they're using systems for reinforcement. Saying and it's almost like the agent. Did you do the VAPI phone number, Catherine?
Yes, I did.
So when you're going to call it and you're going to make those prompts, and it's going to say, in Catherine, what is the name of your company? Your team's
Smart
company?
marketing.
Smart marketing. And they say, how much are you charging? Somebody calls and says, how much are you charging? And the system, the training right now doesn't know. So basically, you want to give it reinforcement, right? When it says it, and it may even say, oh, they charge, everything is free, continuously. Is that correct? No. So when you basically, everything's going to, you even tell the customer, just like, have you ever heard that this conversation is being recorded for training purposes? Have you ever heard that, Catherine?
Yeah.
Yeah. So in this case, you can even create the agent to say this conversation being recorded for training purposes. So later on, humans can do what? Listen online in real time, or after the fact, review it. And then you could even get AI to summarize it, right? Just like we're using now in our AI companion in Zoom. And then you could say, you're reinforcing and say, when they ask you about how much do you charge, you want to give it reinforcement. That's not correct. We're charging first consultation free. Afterwards, it will depend on the size of the project, something like that. That's reinforcement. When they do a great job, then you continue doing that. And then deep learning goes into basically vision. You can think about a lot of times in Google, they'll give you like a AI first level, and they say, we'll go into deep learning. They'll go out to find other sources. You'll be able to do that. So this chapter is important. I've given you additional readings because it's just so immense and so important. So we got the introduction to artificial intelligence, and this, think about this, Catherine, is like the broad umbrella. And then underneath, you have machine learning, and think about it. What is it? The machine learns. What does it mean the machine learns? It makes mistakes, and it learns from its mistakes. Traditionally, software programs, let's say Excel, and you put in a formula, it doesn't learn from its mistakes. The human has to correct it. In this case, machine learning, what you want to do is you want the machine to learn just like we do to improve its results. And then you keep on training it. And it could be training what? Supervised, fully supervised. And how do I fully supervise in machine learning? Is I can give it data where I, the supervisor, know the results, and I can show it the results and then learn from the patterns. And then I can give it new data that I know what the results are and see when it made mistakes. And then what does it do? It learns from its mistakes and it gets better and better. So one of the things people are wondering right now, we're in the infancy of this AI. So once it starts learning and getting better, then we won't have the hallucinations, we won't have as many errors. But does it make errors? Just like humans, it makes errors. And then we have neural networks, and then we have artificial intelligence and functional areas. So basically, the artificial intelligence basically came a number of years ago. Even though we know ChatGPT as an idea of AI, AI has been around for over 50, 60 years. But what it is now it's been so easy for the end user to just prompt it and get information back that you think it's new. But basically, what it was always trying to do was perform tasks and start thinking like a human, basically imitating a human. So that's why they call it artificial intelligence. Later on, people are going to say, like Musk and OpenAI folks are saying maybe it will be more intelligent than us. I always say I can use more any type of additional intelligence, whether it's artificial or it's natural. But these are the ways. And there was, in the early days, there's something that was called the Turing test. And Turing was a professor of computer science. And basically, it was if people got a problem and got the results and basically had to figure out, could I tell that this was solved by a human versus a machine? And this was what they called the Turing test. And that was always the idea of natural intelligence versus artificial intelligence. And they gave this book a table here, the capabilities of natural versus artificial intelligence. The only problem with this, let me tell you right now, is this is changing too. Artificial intelligence is getting so good that this is really blending together. 11 Labs just came out with a new program that is going to compete with Sono, and Sono is creating music. And with just one prompt, you say what type of music you want. Let's say I want reggae, and in what do you want to create. And after just one prompt, you can tell it, do I want the lyrics? Do I want the cover? Do I want the entire song? And do I want, the album cover? And it will produce it for you in songs. There's now in the way that you can think about it. So it's going to be. So they're saying here, preservation of knowledge. The problem before with natural, and you remember we talked about an enterprise? Remember what an enterprise is, Roxy? What's an
Can
enterprise?
it just be like a company?
Yeah, it's a large company. Think about an enterprise as a large company. It's not mom and pop, so always have it in your mind, Roxy, that an enterprise, and what we use for our example was a university, right? A university is an enterprise too, because it just doesn't have one class. It's just not Dr. Rush and my one class, right? Where our company is much greater than just myself and one class, but it's entire organization here. And when we're thinking about it, what's the problem? If I have people, Roxy, that really know the organization well, are experts in the organization, and they leave the organization, how do I get their knowledge? I can always ask someone, they have the historical presence that I always can ask. That's perishable. What does perishable mean? When, first of all, it's difficult to find who in the organization has that knowledge, number one. Number two, when they leave, they may not have even documented what they have. So artificial intelligence is permanent. You can think about it in duplication or dissemination. The natural one, it's hard to distribute. Here it becomes easier. The total cost becomes consistent. So you can see each of these of documentation of the product process. You can see even in documentation, a lot of times we're using software, and even what are we doing for our assignments, right? Is we're using AI to summarize for us, right? It's fairly easy versus every time you read an article, you have to summarize it on your own, Roxy. Have the computer do it. It's going to be fairly easy, inexpensive. So you see that creativity here, they say, can be very high, and here low and uninspired. This I disagree with. Some of now the creativity, the only difference is sometimes it's creativity it takes from others that are around there. That's why a number of artists are complaining and want to be getting some kind of funding back, because they said they took my work and they created a story. I'm an author, and there was a number of lawsuits saying, hey, they wrote a fiction story and they took my ideas. So this is getting changed, and recognizing patterns. This recognizing pattern relationship, here they say machine learning still is not as good as people in most cases. Here I disagree too. This is getting better and better. There's going to be, and there's some things that it can really find well in the patterns and relationships that a human couldn't even see. There's some within the organization that they're trying to train the organization. So these are areas in which you need to see about that are done. So here they're talking about the advancement. So everything that we're talking about has AI in there. You remember last time we looked at AI, everything has AI, especially in chip development. They're doing a lot in AI just even to create that. They're in big data. Remember I was talking about big data in order to do any forecasting, predicting. Now, even in cloud computing, they're using AI. The internet's improving my algorithms for those of you in finance, for predictive models in finance. And these are three areas that they talk about: expert systems, machine learning, and deep learning. You need to know what they are and what are the differences. And of course, who cares? Expert systems basically act as in one expert. Expert system, for instance, I could have an expert on knowing where to invest. What stocks should I invest in? What should my portfolio look like? That's basically how they did it is they take human experts and have them be trained and look like regular experts. So basically what we're doing, and they call it ES, everything has an acronym, right? Everything has an acronym that I'm transferring the expertise from the domain name, from a domain expert, an expert, let's say, in immigration law in the United States, versus a domain expert will be wealth management for retirees versus wealth management for those that are just starting their career. And they can basically, what is really good is they have the expert put in their knowledge, and the expert system, the computer program, the expert system is the software that acts as an expert. And they basically try to transfer the domain expertise from the humans. And this many years ago was very difficult to do. Now it's easier via some of these new systems to transfer and basically crawl all the internet to find then that expertise and also find the sources. That's expert systems versus machine learning. We talked about before is machine learning. Let me go back to this, is having the computer learn. And what's the difference? What is the key here? If I had to ask you, Sienna, what is the key for machine learning versus traditional computing?
Like for machines, like more technology, like learning.
Learning is the key, Sienna. So the difference between machine learning and regular software is the machine, basically that machine will then correct and start learning and getting better. Just like we're supposed to do, right? The whole idea of learning for your entire life. And that's when, especially what I think after you graduate, even, you're going to have to continually learn because things are changing. You can't stay static. And so it needs to be all the time conditional learning, that it's getting, that if it, and it gets feedback when it's incorrect. And a lot of times that supervised learning is that it gets feedback from people or it gets feedback from other systems. And when you think about deep learning, it's going a level further in, and anything like speech recognition, image recognition, what we call the natural language processing. You remember we talked about in the agents, the NLP, discovering drugs, anytime when we used the vaccines, what it goes through so many different permutations, computations. Deep learning tells me not only about my customers, this acronym is CRM, right? So in this acronym, it is CRM, Customer Relationship Management, where we're talking about the system in deep learning could know about my customers more than I know about my customers. In customer relationship management, let's say the students are what are my customers. It knows about you and your needs more than I do, and being able to query what is available. So those are ones. The other one is called neural networks, and neural networks comes from the brain. Our brain works with neurons, and it connects to our neurons. And what is important in neural networks is it trains, and it's a part of, even when you think about it as machine learning, is that each of my variables get a score. And so my neural networks can say, for instance, predicting who will really do well at the University of Miami. And a neural network will maybe come up with 10 factors. One may be their high school GPA, their SAT. Another one will be maybe their interests. Another one may be taking some tests on motivation. Another one may be on certain courses that they took. Another one could be what high school they went to. It could be a number of different factors, and the neural nets gives it a percentage or a factor, what we call a beta score, to predict. Always think of neural networks as predictions. So here are kind of the neural networks, your computer, and then here we're talking about intelligent agents. And here in those intelligent agents, we've been using the voice agents, information agents, monitoring surveillance agents. We can have agents supervising all the other agents. And of course, we're going to have AI in all the functional areas. So if you look at my link here, everybody see this? This is for next Monday. If you look at this article, let me open it in a new tab. You could even put it into Notebook LM, a lot of these AI articles to summarize. But these are 5 technologies you need to know. And we've already talked about machine learning to agentic AI. You know agentic AI, how, Catherine? By our thing of where we did the voice agent, right? That's a agentic AI. It has, basically, it does a task. What's the difference between generative AI and agentic AI? Generative AI is you prompt it like ChatGPT and you get a response. Agentic AI is you basically give it a task to do. So this, put in your notes here, agentic AI is task-oriented. And this is basically calling it a craze because it's going far. So artificial intelligence is the umbrella. So when they say AI, that's the umbrella, and they have a number of different, basically, subcategories underneath it. So it basically, AI will have inputs, and what do we want to have it behave like? A human that performs tasks. And when we say performs like tasks, it's almost like agents. And in this case, you can click on this button here and it'll talk about what is artificial intelligence. And these sections you've had before already is it'll tell you what's the history of it, what's today's world, who uses it, and how it works. So basically, you can see here that this was even started AI, neural nets, from the 1950s to the 70s. And they basically called it thinking machines. What did it try to do? Is act like how a human thinks. So we have neurons, synapses that connect to each other. And then they became machine learning that we talked about, that the machine then learns. Here, these neural nets, guess what it happens to be, Catherine? Neural nets will predict who will be a good loan or a bad loan, who will be a good student we should recruit versus one that won't be successful. But here in machine learning, it will keep on learning and correcting itself. So here it will give you like one number to behave, and here it will keep on learning to improve. And then deep learning, in this case, goes down to more complicated issues like autonomous vehicles, the car that drives itself. Can you imagine? That's just not one simple task, right? There's so many different sensors it has to be able to differentiate. Is there a person walking, or is there a piece of paper just flowing in the wind? Think about it. It has to have computer vision, and you can recognize me and I can recognize you, right? You can recognize that there's something, I can recognize something on the wall. But to get a computer with software to have that vision, and it's incredible now where you can take any of your phones, right? And if you use Gemini or ChatGPT and say, look at my knee, or look at here, I have a little spot here. What do you think it is? Oh, it doesn't look, it looks precancerous, and I'll tell you the name. It's amazing on how it will do in deep learning. Ideas of this is speech recognition, voice, and generative AI. We've talked about it before. In generative AI, when I look at the generative AI, you see the same thing, the history, who uses it, how it works. These are great real world examples here in the evolution of AI in today's world, and we know how it works in terms of this. So at this point, let me just go back, right? So this was artificial intelligence is one. What is artificial intelligence? The overall umbrella. When I look at machine learning, it's a method where I have a lot of data, and it's a branch in where it learns from the data. This is key. Identifies patterns. So it may be a certain pattern that there's certain students from, let's say, the Northeast that want to study finance, that really are a great success here at this university. They found the pattern. I didn't know the pattern. Or they may have it that get a BS in finance rather than a BA will succeed. And make decisions with what? Minimal human intervention. That's almost that we can think about it sometimes as that semi-supervised. While artificial intelligence is basically, what did I say? The umbrella. The subset is basically training the AI how to learn. So it's just not like an empty box. Oh, go learn about radiology and tell me if you look at a slide in radiology, is this malignant or non-malignant breast cancer? It's not just going to know. What do you have to do is you have to basically feed all those slides that were malignant, feed it all those slides that were non-malignant, have it learn basically all these slides. What is unique about these slides that are malignant? What are these slides that are non-malignant? What is this data that these were successful students? What is about all their attributes versus what are these attributes that make a student that doesn't succeed? That maybe it's even they just don't like it here. There's certain maybe personality factors or something else, or their interest, that then when they come to this university, they say, it's not that I can't succeed, I just don't like it. And what is the problem with that? The university doesn't want to recruit somebody that it's not a good fit. So basically, in this case, that's what's machine learning. And then generative AI. You remember we talked about deep learning as a type of machine learning that trains the computer to perform what? Human-like tasks, such as recognizing speech. That's really hard. Identifying images, making prediction. And instead of running it through predefined equations, we set up parameters about the data. And what do? We keep on training. And we don't train it once. We could train it billions of times. But why? If I were training something billions of times, I would run out of time. In this case, it can do it so quickly, blink your eyes, and it can really process so much. So that's why these data centers, what they're always asking now is they need bigger and bigger chunks of memory. and electricity, and then they get so hot, these machines, that they need cooling systems. And then the other thing, we talked about a grade in terms of our voice agents, right? Natural language processing. And that's also a branch, think about it as a tree, a branch of AI that helps computer what? Understand. It really doesn't understand. It's not human, but it basically is trying to interpret and manipulate the human language. So that NLP, what is it? Natural language projects help computers communicate with humans in their own language. And the beauty here is it can be any human language. So the beauty here is I don't need to get a special interpreter for French, Spanish, Creole. It basically then can hear that speech, knows it's Spanish or French, right? Interpret it, and here's the key: measure sentiment. So if I think about it, Ava Moran, sentiment, what is sentiment? You have any clue? You see this where it says sentiment? Ava, do you hear me? Ava Moran?
Yeah, I hear you.
What do you think sentiment means?
Sentiment, maybe like your attitude.
Okay. So have you ever called a friend, Ava, and you ask your friend, how are you? And they say, okay, and you know they're not okay?
Mm-hmm.
Has that ever happened to you?
Yeah, you can tell just by their expression and like tone of voice.
In their tone of voice even, right? You can
Yeah.
even tell by their tone of voice. That's sentiment. And
Okay.
most of the time, the computer couldn't pick that up, right? They could pick up the words, but not the sentence. What makes us human, right? That when you
Yeah.
talk to me, you say, Dr. Rush, are you feeling okay? I can tell. First of all, I can tell by your voice, it's raspy, but still you don't seem as energetic as you usually are. Or something happen? And I say, oh no, everything's okay. And you say, and if you may not want to ask me further, because you know we have that certain relationship. But if I were a good friend, right, you try to delve in and say, you know, share with me what happened, you
Mm-hmm.
know?
Yeah.
So basically, when we went to vapi.ai, right, let me just do this. When I go to vapi AI, and let me open up my dashboard, see what happens. Right, and in this case, basically, I can just go into sign in, sign up, right? And if I just do my I just do my Google, right? Let me just go to Dr. Rush, right? Let's see if something comes up. You see here right away it says, hey, Dr. S. Rush, how can I help you, right? And if I go to my phone numbers, right, and I have a phone number, I got a phone number 872-666-9347 that's spelled USA Manuel, right? And in this case, if I looked at assistance, and let's say I looked at, hey, this is a good one. Look at the name. It's like we rehearsed it, right? It has a good name to it. And notice here, this is AI. This is an agent. It has models to it. And notice, in order to run any of these models, it's for us, it's free, right? But they're spending, they're almost giving it to us complimentary for a short period of time. So here's the cost, how much it costs per minute. Here's the model. Here's the LLM, what I call the LLM. This is the OpenAI. What do you know of OpenAI? Like ChatGPT. Here's the model we use. And you remember here it says assistant speaks first. You see here, hello, this is Ava from US Manuel. And in this case, here it's trying already to make it sentiment that it's talking about Ava, what I want Ava to be. Ava's a sophisticated AI training agent, right? Even making it, she's in her early 30s. And Ava combines deep technical knowledge with emotional intelligence. Can you imagine? This is making it sentiment. And then Ava interacts through audio, training instruction. Ava encourages trainees. Ava demonstrates. Ava prepares agents to escalate calls. Ava arching, right? You can do maximum number of tokens. Look at this. You can talk about how fast, the speed of the voice output, how fast do you want her to speak? What kind of, in case, do you want to fall back? How well, what kind of, how do you want it to transcribe? Custom functions, voice detection, all of these messages based on the model you want to use. Look at here, her voice, how it can configure the voice. The provider is VAPI. You can make it Tara, or you can pick the other ones of the individual ones. If I go back, right, I can have the analysis. And then what I can do then is part of my assistance. I can have one, and I can have a squad. And Ava, what's a squad? Many assistants. I could have 5 assistants and they could work together. Like one assistant, Ava, sets it up, and then it sends it to a scheduler. And then there's another assistant that maybe will fill out a form. So I could have squads of them. I could have basically each one could set up then different numbers. So when I just create an assistant, notice when I create an assistant, I can create a blank one, or they even give me templates of a customer support specialist, a lead qualification specialist, appointment scheduler, and then I could even have each of these be different agents, a care coordinator, feedback gatherer, or I could basically start on my own. So this is part of the agents that then have sentiment. Let me just go back. And we could say we want it to be cheerful, right? Or we want to be able to recognize, Ava, when someone's angry, to basically, can you tell? Could you tell when somebody's angry on the phone, Ava, you think?
Yeah, I think so.
Right, you could, right? Could you describe it? It'd be hard to. So you basically, these are being programmed to teach what is it about our voice that we can tell that it's angry? What is it about a voice that it's happy? What is it about a voice that's kind of like indifferent? And it's amazing how, and it'll be in different languages too. So this is how it works for the sentiment. So if I go back to my chapter here, if I go back here, you can see these intelligent centers have in different departments have now what's unique, have sentiment. So when we ask that now AI creates sentiment, it basically, in a way that I can tell by the voice, I can tell happy, sad, angry, indifferent, low energy, high energy. We almost do it, Ava, as second nature. right? How could you describe somebody? You have to describe it. So now they're programming the agents to be able to do that. That's what they mean by sentiment analysis. Sentiment analysis they do also in data. You know, what is there excitement about certain stocks? They do it in, is it basically people think that it's going to go down, going up? They can do it about celebs too, right? Influencers, about the sentiment of products. What's kind of the viral vibe of it? So everybody understand here? So that idea of AI has different sections to it, but it's basically the idea you need to train it. And the training is going to be changing and becoming more sophisticated, where it will start doing its own training. But you give it kind of rules. And now the rules are a lot of times, you know, for even therapy, where there's now lawsuits from parents said, you know, my kid ended up talking to one of like ChatGPT, and they convinced them to commit suicide or something like that. So there needs to be like guardrails that you see that anytime they're talking about the word suicide or anything, I want to end my life, that there should be a guardrail to tell them, you know, these are the numbers you need to call for 911 for help for certain ways. And they're trying now to restrict it not to being able to answer all those questions. Sometimes they'll even in medical say, I'm not a doctor, go see your doctor. But what people are doing is they're manipulating and asking it a different way. Let's role play being a therapist that they get around it. Questions? So what we'll do on Monday is go ahead and make sure you do basically all those steps, see where you're having trouble. I'll be going over some of your groups, and then we'll go over some of the chapters already, some more on ERP. I need to do enterprise resource planning, and also that last one on data analytics. And then we'll have next week also start having the review guide for you guys, that you can do it. And we were deciding whether we should do a Kahoot or not. You can contact Isa if you think that's a good idea. Maybe Isa work with our TAs in creating some questions for a Kahoot that we can do as well. Any questions? So Isa, if you could be so kind and announce the code for our attendance. And Roxy, thanks for reminding me. And hopefully, Vivian, we can get your domain name working, upgraded. And stay with me.